I seek refuge in God from the accursed Satan. Start with the name of God, who is gracious, merciful. Quran Topics by Tanvir Kazmi. Chapter 34, Human Rights and Justice, English audio number 2. Al-Nisa 4 verse 1. O people, observe your Lord, the one who created you from one being and created from it its mate, then spread from the two many men and women. You shall regard God by whom you swear, and regard your parents. God is watcher over you. You shall hand over to the orphans their rightful properties. Do not substitute the bad for the good. Do not consume their properties by combining them with yours. This would be a gross injustice. You shall give the women their root you shall give the women their due dowries equitably. If they willingly forfeit anything, then you may accept it. It is rightfully yours. Do not give immature orphans the properties that God has entrusted with you as a guardian. You shall provide for them therefrom, and clothe them, and treat them kindly. You shall test the orphans when they reach puberty. As soon as you find them mature enough, give them their property. Do not consume it extravagantly in a hurry before they grow up. The rich guardian shall not charge any wage, but the poor guardian may charge equitably. When you give them their properties, you shall have witnesses. God suffices as a reckoner. The men get a share of what the parents and the relatives leave behind. The women too shall get a share of what the parents and relatives leave behind, whether it is small or a large inheritance. A definite share. During distribution of the inheritance, if the relatives, orphans, and needy persons are present, you shall give them therefrom, and treat them kindly. Those who are concerned about their own children, in case they leave them behind, shall observe God and be equitable. Those who consume the orphans' properties unjustly eat fire into their bellies and will suffer in hell. Allah decreed a will for the benefit of your children. The male gets twice the share of the female. If the inheritors are only women, more than two, they get two-thirds of what is bequeathed. If only one daughter is left, she gets one half. The parents of the deceased get one-sixth of inheritance each. If the deceased has left any children, If he left no children, and his parents are the only inheritors, the mother gets one-third. If he has siblings, then the mother gets one-sixth. All this after fulfilling any will in deceased has left, and after paying off all debts. When it comes to your parents and your children, you do not know which of them is really the best to you and the most beneficial. This is God's law. Allah is all knowing, most wise. You get half of what your wives leave behind if they had no children. If they had children, you get one-fourth of what they leave. All this after fulfilling any will they have left, and after paying all debts. They get one-fourth of what you leave behind if you had no children. If you had children, they get one-eighth of what you left behind. All this after fulfilling any will you had left, and after paying off all debts. If the deceased man or woman was a loner and leaves two siblings, male or female, each of them get one-sixth of the inheritance. If there are more siblings, then they equally share one-third of the inheritance. All this after fulfilling the will. And if and after paying off all debts, so that no one is hurt. This is a will decreed by God. God is all knowing, clement. These are God's law. Those who obey God and His Messenger, He will admit them into gardens with flowing streams, wherein they live forever. This is the great triumph. Al-Nisa 4 verse 19. O you believe it is not lawful for you to inherit what his women have leave behind against their will. You shall not force them to give up anything you had given them, unless they commit a proven adultery, zina. You shall treat them nicely. If you dislike them, You may dislike something wherein God has placed a lot of good. If you wish to marry another wife in place of your present wife, and you had given any of them a great deal, you shall not take back anything you had given her. Would you take it fraudulently, maliciously, and sinfully? How could you take it back after you have been intimate with each other, and they had taken from you a solemn pledge? Al-Nisa 4, verse 29. O you believe, do not consume each other's property illicitly. Only mutually acceptable transactions are permitted. You shall not kill yourselves. God is merciful toward you. Anyone who commits these transgressions maliciously and deliberately, we will condemn him to the hellfire. This is easy for gods to do. If you refrain from committing the gross sins that are prohibited for you, we will remit your sins and admit you in honorable admittance. You shall not covet the qualities bestowed upon each other by God. The men enjoy certain qualities and the women enjoy certain qualities. You may implore God to shower you with His grace. Allah is fully aware of all things. For each of you, we have designated shares from the inheritance left by the parents and the relatives. Also, those related to you through marriage, you shall give them their due share. God witnesses all things. Nisa 4, verse 36. You shall worship God alone, do not associate anything with Him. You shall regard the parents, the relatives, the orphans, the poor, the related neighbor, the unrelated neighbors, the close associate, the traveling alien, and your servants. Allah does not like the arrogant show offs. Al Nisa 4, verse 38. They give money to charity only to show off, while disbelieving in God and the last day. If one's companion is the devil, that is the worst companion. Al Nisa 4, verse 58. Allah commands you to give back anything the people have entrusted to you. If you judge among the people, you shall judge equitably. The best enlightenment indeed is what God has recommended for you. God is hearer, seer. Al-Nisa 4, verse 85. Whoever mediates a good deeds receives a share of the credit thereof, and whoever mediates an evil work incurs a share thereof. Allah controls all things. When greeted with a greeting, you shall respond with a better greeting, or at least an equal one. God reckons all things. Al-Nisa 4, verse 92. No believer shall kill another believer unless it is an accident. If one kills a believer by accident, they shall atone by freeing a believing slave and paying a compensation to the victim's family, unless they forfeit such as compensation as a charity. If the victim belongs to people who are at war with you, though he was a believer, you shall atone by freeing a believing slave. If that belong to people with whom you have signed a peace treaty, you shall pay the compensation in addition to freeing a believing slave. If you cannot find a slave to free, you shall atone by fasting 2 consecutive months in order to be redeemed by God. Allah is knower, most wise. Anyone who kills a believer on purpose, deliberately, his punishment is hellfire, wherein he will live. God is angry with him, condemned them, and has prepared for them a terrible punishment. O you believe, if you strike in the cause of God, you shall be absolutely sure. Do not say to one who offers you peace, you are not a believer, seeking the spoils of this world, for God possesses infinite spoils. Remember that you used to be like them, and God bless you. Therefore, you shall be absolutely sure before you strike. God is fully aware of everything you do. Al-Nisa 4, verse 112. Anyone who earns a sin, then accuses an innocent person thereof, has committed a blasphemy and a gross offense. Al-Nisa 4, verse 114. There is nothing good about their private conferences except for those who advocate charity or righteous works or making peace among the people. Anyone who does this in response to God's teaching, we will grant them a great reward. Al-Nisa 4 verse 127. They consult you concerning women, say, God enlightens you to regarding them as recited for you in the book. You shall restore the rights of orphan girls when you take their due dowries when you wish to marry them. You shall not take advantage of them. The rights of orphans boy must also be protected as well. You shall treat the orphans equitably. Whatever good you do, God is fully aware thereof. Al-Nisa 4, verse 148. Allah does not like the utterance of bad language unless one is treated with gross injustice. Allah is hearing, knowing. Al-Nisa, verse 161. 4, Al-Nisa 4, verse 161. And for practicing usury which was forbidden, taking high interest, and for consuming people's money illicitly, we have prepared for the disbelievers among them painful punishment. Al-Ma'idah 5 verse 2. O you believe, do not violate the rites instituted by God, nor the sacred months, nor the animals to be offered, nor the garlands marking them, nor the people who head for the sacred shrine Kaaba, seeing blessing from their Lord and approval. Once you complete the pilgrimage, you may hunt. Do not be provoked into aggression by your hatred of people who once prevented you from going to the sacred mosque. You shall cooperate in matters of righteousness and piety. Do not cooperate in matters that are sinful and evil. You shall observe Allah. God is strict in enforcing punishment. Al-Ma'idah 5 verse 8. O you believe, you shall be absolutely equitable and observe God when you serve as a witness. Do not be provoked by your conflicts with some people into committing injustice. You shall be absolutely equitable for it is more righteous. You shall observe Allah. God is fully aware of everything you do. God promises those who believe and lead a righteous life forgiveness and a great reward. Al-Ma'idah 5 verse 55. Your real allies are God and His Messenger and the believers who observe prayers and give charity and they bow down in prostration. Al-Ma'idah 5 verse 89. God does not hold you responsible for the mere utterance of oaths. He holds you responsible for your actual intentions. If you violate an oath, you shall atone by feeding 10 poor people from the same food you offer to your own family, or clothing them, or by freeing a slave. If you cannot afford this, then you shall fast 3 days. This is the atonement for violating the oaths that you swore to keep. You shall fulfill your oaths. Allah thus explains His revelations to you that you may be appreciative.